Hello, my name is Crystal, and the book that I've read for this month's book report is Gather by Kenneth and Cadow. This book takes place in a more rural, farm-like area in Vermont, specifically Ian's home or farm, which is the protagonist, Ian's school, and the woods around his neighborhood or behind his farm. This is important because it demonstrates how the farm life is very quiet, and it allows the author to express Ian's emotional isolation. The setting takes place in a rural area, which is more centered around nature, and it's more quiet, unlike the city life, which also reflects how Ian is usually feeling lonely and not really well with social skills. Vermont not only has harsh weather, but also their landscape and basically nature there is a lot more rough than most places. This symbolizes survival. Ian also has to learn resilience and adapt to difficult circumstances, which is expressed throughout the book. Because Ian is surrounded by nature, he looks for comfort, especially in the woods in his neighborhood, and he believes that the woods can give him the comfort and therapy he needs that people cannot give him. Ian, his full name is Dorian Gray, but in the book they typically call him by his short name because he expresses that he does not like to be called his full name or real first name. But Ian is a dynamic character which changes throughout the entire novel. He starts off as somebody who would be usually stubborn and act like or believe that they're able to do everything on their own and quiet. But as the book or the novel progresses, he ends up showing emotional character development. Ian is a very observant and resilient teenage boy throughout the story. He really cares about his mother. A time where he could be very observant is before or after he's able to check on his mother when he does feel like he has to interact with her. For instance, if he's coming home from school and he meets his mom or needs to see his mom at home, he basically scans the entire living room once he enters it. He makes sure everything is okay. He makes sure what's there and what isn't. This is because his mother has been struggling with substance abuse or substance addiction for quite a long time, and that could be a cause to him being very observant of his surroundings and to be cautious or to assume what happened while he wasn't there. Ian is a type of character that does not basically he expresses only 10% of how he usually feels and thinks on the inside. This basically means that he shows his inner thoughts and his opinions on the inside and his mind are very vulnerable to him. So he only expresses a tenth of that in person. So you can see let's say a person is very excited about an event. Inside they could be shrieking, jumping, and celebrating. While on the outside they would probably only show a smile. That's basically what Ian is like. Ian's mother is another significant character in the story because her character, her problems, her opinions, she basically outlines the conflict of the story, how she is unreliable, and although she loves him very deeply, she is not able to hold onto Ian's burdens because she has her own, because she struggles with mental health, and basically Ian is constantly watching her struggle with her own problems, and then he has his own, which causes him to be emotionally unstable, and a lot of things that he has to do, he basically learns from himself. Within this novel, readers are able to go through this journey within Ian's point of view. Therefore, it is in first-person point of view, in Ian's perspective. This is a very intimate and close. It allows readers to get a close connection with Ian because we're allowed to enter in his both emotional thoughts and his actions towards everyone else within the novel. This point of view is also very important because we're able to see Ian's true opinions, his loyalty, his frustration on a very personal level, and it allows us to understand and even empathize Ian and his struggles. In this novel, Ian is going through conflicts such as human versus circumstance and human versus self. Ian has to hold the responsibility of taking care of a mentally ill parent, aka his mother, and also bearing her struggles as well as his own. Ian struggles with guilt and responsibility internally, and he deals with this by basically connecting with nature and spending time alone, as well as trying to feel like he's in the state of normalcy, basically feeling normal, like his life is okay, and that this is standard. Within this novel, near the end of the story, Ian is not able to fix something because this is him dealing with mental health, and basically he's able to fix everything external, but when it comes to mental health, this is something that's going to be ongoing, so you're going to have to deal with it and basically find ways to understand it instead of fixing or getting rid of it. Two themes in this novel is the resilience in the face of poverty and isolation, and the search for belonging and stability. Ian has to live in a state of poverty, which he experienced the ability to learn resilience, which is clearly not going to be a smooth path. He's going to experience rough situations, he's going to face difficult times where he has to think very critically about things, choose very specific decisions in life where he's able to believe that would be more beneficial than the other one. When it comes to belonging, the title itself is a theme in the novel because Ian has to gather stability because he's unable to learn belonging or feel like he belongs somewhere because his parents, basically almost every adult around him, is unreliable, so he has to feel stability in uncertain places. Symbolization. One thing within the novel, which is symbolization, is the woods. The woods symbolize basically isolation and refuge. Ian is able to survive and adapt to his environment within the woods. Another one would be his home. The reason why his home is symbolization is because typically a person's home is supposed to feel welcoming, is supposed to feel safe for this person. However, Ian's home is more unpredictable and basically unstable. he's not able to predict how his mother is, where his mother is, what his mother has been doing, especially when times where he hasn't been around in his home. This is basically reflecting emotional instability within Ian. This story shows subtle foreshadow of Ian's mom's death. In the beginning, it starts off with, of course, Ian and his mother struggling, especially financially, struggling with mental health, struggling with abuse, and all sorts of things. However, in the middle of the story, it begins to get better. This doesn't last long, which, when the good starts going back to bad, Ian's mother is unable to handle these issues like she was able to before, which causes a lot of foreshadowing. It gives the author a lot of area to foreshadow her death, showing her coming back to her addiction, but even worse than it was before. She's able to hide secrets and even act very oddly to Ian himself, as the story is reading in Ian's first person point of view. The ending of this novel is very realistic and justifiable. It shows how there's not something that's specifically resolved. However, Ian is able to learn and grow from these experiences and become stronger than who he was from the start, which is very, very, very realistic. I like this book because it's very raw when it comes to the struggles of mental health and addiction, and I find it very interesting how Ian is able to learn all of this through another character such as his mom, and basically his opinions are very, very relatable as a teenager myself, because both Ian and I are teenagers. However, we are not going through the same things, but I can relate to him in a lot of opinions that he makes within the book.